Well, welcome everybody to Speaking of Zane. Got a good crowd assembling here for the June 4th, 2023 edition. We are, 233 weeks that we have had Speaking of Zane. That means 233 weeks that we have sought to keep his memory alive by speaking his name. And it has grown to so much more than that. We are in the business of thanking veterans and revering those who have paid the ultimate price, and lots of goodness. So thanks to you all for joining. Let me break down. There we go. Get that out of the way. All right. Well, let's see who we have got assembled here tonight. I always like to give some shout outs. Let's see. Daryl gets the Early Bird Award. He was here first. Hey, Daryl, good to have you in there. There's a race going on in your neck of the woods there, the Illinois 300 at Worldwide Technology Raceway there. It looks like they're in a caution right now. They've had about 8 of them today with maybe 33 laps to go. Let's see. Toby's in there. I know Toby's watching the race. Toby's probably the biggest NASCAR fan I know, biggest race fan I know. He is my cousin. Let's see. Toby's mom's in there. My Aunt Mary. Hey, Aunt Mary, down in Ocilla, Georgia. Colin Krim is in there from Albuquerque. I always think, Colin, when I hear the term or when I hear the name Albuquerque, I always think of, you probably remember the old Bugs Bunny cartoon. And whenever he's trying to exaggerate something, he talks about it. He must have taken a left at Albuquerque. Something like that. You know what I'm talking about. But I had a chance to spend some time in Albuquerque. I think I told you I was in Vegas for a tech meeting and decided to swing through there when my son Jackson was stationed there in Albuquerque for some training. And so I swung in there and spent a weekend with him in Albuquerque. We went up we did the cable car up to Sandia and had a really good time there. All right, let's see. Katie Aaron's in there. It's just Katie. Matt is away for a couple of weeks of training. Matt continues to serve. Matt was one of Zane's battle buddies, served with Zane in Iraq, and continues to serve in the Michigan National Guard. So thank you for doing that, Matt. Katie, good to have you in there. Are the girls out of school for the summer? Jim Miller's in there. Hey, Jimbo. And Carl and Peggy Kihas from the booming metropolis of Warsaw, Missouri, are in there. My buddy Steve Shirley from the butterfly city of Nebraska is in there, Papillon. And there's my dad in there. Hey, Dad. Matt Marine, retired Marine, down in, speaking of booming metropolises, down in Fitzgerald, Georgia. How about that? There's my Aunt Paula. Hey, Aunt Paula, down in Florida. Aunt Paula's an Alabamian, but when she retired, she moved down to the Tampa Bay area. Lori and I have had a couple of opportunities to spend time with Aunt Paula over the last few years. My good buddy Amy Walton is in there, one of my favorite Air Force people. How are you doing? Lori is in there. Lori's downstairs. Oh, the fort. Okay, yeah. No, some schools go pretty deep into June for sure. Our little guy Everett, our grandson, they finished school last week here in Georgia. All right. Well, let's see. Lori has a visitor with her today. Her sister Cindy, who is maybe a year older than Lori. It's her big sister Cindy. Is in town for a little while. She came to town this morning. Lori went down to Hartsfield, picked her up. The Hillmans are in there. Good to have you in there. All right. Well, remind me where you Hillmans are. I always think of South Dakota when I hear your name, but I'm not real sure. All right. Well, good crowd assembled tonight, and many others that are watching, I'm sure. And then a lot of people watch the replay on my YouTube channel. But Good to have you all in there nonetheless. Let's see, what do we have going on here at the fabulous McDonald Estate and Insane Asylum? Minnesota. Okay. Hillmans are in Minnesota. That's Steve Shirley country right there. All right. Well, let's see. Oh, we had a busy day yesterday. At least I did. Me and my son Jackson. We helped my daughter Hannah, our oldest daughter, who's the Army veteran. She's the mom of our little grandson Everett, who's 6 years old. She moved into an apartment yesterday in Cartersville, Georgia, where we do most of our commerce. It's probably the closest. We're in a little town called Ackworth. We have to either go south to Kennesaw or north to Cartersville. And Cartersville is less populated, less traffic. We prefer to go to Cartersville anyway. We are, let's see. Yeah, we are. Yeah, it was. Hannah rented a big budget moving van, and we got her moved in. Took Jackson and I, because we had some big, heavy items, beds and sofas and all that stuff, but we got it all done, and so I'm sure she will enjoy it there. All right, well, let's see who else we've got joining here. Ken's in there. Hey, buddy. Ken's in there. Okay, the Hillmans are down near the South Dakota border. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, let's see what else we got going on here. I mentioned the NASCAR race. Yeah, the NASCAR race is going on right now. I haven't been really following the last few years so closely, but I've been inclined to follow a little bit closer, because, especially this week, because the company I work for is based in St. Louis. We're headquartered in St. Louis, founded in St. Louis 32 years ago, and we're the largest African American owned business in the world, actually. And so it's a big week, because this week's NASCAR race is at the racetrack in Illinois, which is on the border of St. Louis. It's actually in Illinois, but it's we sponsor the raceway, Worldwide Technology Raceway. Wow, that's you're getting big time when you sponsor a raceway. So anyway, I've been keeping track a little bit with NASCAR because of our affiliation with that. So, and it's going on right now. They're down to about 26 laps there. A lot of my colleagues and coworkers are at the race, so it'll be kind of fun to talk tomorrow about it. All right, let's see what else we got going. Oh man, wow! Talk about sports. It was the Braves are out in Phoenix right now, and the games have been very late. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock last night Eastern time, and thank goodness today's game started at 4 Eastern time, so I was able to watch the game. And the Braves were trailing going into the night, and the Braves pulled it out with a grand salami in the top of the 9th inning, and the Diamondbacks were not able to come back. So the Braves win, and now back home, the Braves come for a couple of series, the Mets and the Nats, I believe. I'm going to be going to the game, actually. One of our business partners has invited me to a ball game. I think it's on the 15th, somewhere in there, 15th, 16th, something like that. So I'll report in on the Braves game. All right, let's see. What do we got going here? Oh, Daryl, I wanted to comment. Last week we had Speaking of Zane on Monday night, on Memorial Day night. And Daryl posted this that night or the next day, but Daryl did something very cool in his neighborhood. Daryl, I just want to make sure this was you, or were you reposting someone else's? Put a couple of speakers out the window facing into the neighborhood and played taps. Wow, powerful, man, very powerful. I tear up when I hear taps, no doubt about it. But very good stuff there, Daryl. Okay, it was a short week. I tell you what, anytime Monday is a holiday, The week tends to go by very, very fast, and it certainly did this past week. For those of us still working, I know there's some retired people on here like Amy and Jim and Daryl and Steve. It seems like all my friends are retired, but not me. I've got probably a decade left in me, I would think. We'll see how things go. Okay, well, let's see. Weight loss. Thank you very much for the comment in the chat there, Ken. And I finally, last week, I reported that I was stuck at 79 pounds, I think. 79 pounds I've lost in 16 months. And I finally broke the 80-pound mark and actually surprised myself. I'm at 81 pounds lost. And I'm not done because I'm in a little competition with a bunch of young people at work. These people are half my age, and I will not be beat. And we're in a challenge right now. Weight loss challenge, and then we got a couple more weeks. We can begin weighing in our final weight this weekend. And if I need to lose to meet the goal of this whole thing is about from the time you first weigh in to the time you weigh out is a 6% weight loss. Now listen, I had already lost 75 pounds by the time we started this little competition. So I'm thinking, I'm being generous to all my colleagues who I'm competing with. I'm like, okay, fatty, you got a little bit more to lose now than I do. I've already lost 75 pounds. But I said, well, let me give it a go here. I think I can lose 6% more. And that meant for me to lose another 10 or 12 pounds, I guess, from that point. So I've got to get below the 6%, to get below that minimum where I share in the pot of riches, because there's a financial component to this. To share in the pot, you have to achieve the 6%. And now that means I need to lose between now and like the 20th of June, I need to lose another, let me think about this, 2 pounds. 2 pounds. I need to lose 2 more pounds. So I'm going to lose more than that. But anyway, that's the name of that tune. Okay, well, let's see. Moved Hannah, Lori's sister's here. Oh, I'm going back to St. Louis, Daryl. I've got a trip planned for June 21 through 23. I think it's a Wednesday through Friday. I've got some work to do there. A couple of things. I'm a guest speaker at an event there, but I'm going to take advantage of being there, Daryl, to do another flag retirement ceremony. So I'm going to gather up a bunch of other WWT veterans, and we're going to do another flag retirement ceremony. There's another one that's worn and weathered that needs to be replaced. So we're going to do that either on the 22nd or the 23rd. I haven't decided which yet. So would love for you to come back out. It's only a couple of miles away from the last place we did, Daryl. Another big warehouse facility, but in that same area, it's got the same. It's in the same town. What is it? What is the name of that town? It's in Illinois. Anyway, but all right, I'll let you know, Daryl. Okay, well, let's see. Hat of the week, hat of the week, hat of the week. You guys know that the hat of the week always has something to do with what the heck is going on around here, either at home or at work. Edwardsville, Daryl nailed it. Edwardsville, Illinois. It's sort of a St. Louis suburb. It's just across the river, but that's where we have a couple of big warehouse operations. Anyway, thank you, Daryl. Yeah, so hat of the week. Well, you probably guessed, I'm wearing my Worldwide Technology hat. This isn't a commercial for my company, but because of the race this weekend, looks like there's some more folks up against the wall right now, Toby. So we'll have ninth or 10th yellow here. Anyway, that's the hat of the week, Worldwide Technology. Okay. I have been here over 11 years. That is as long as I've been anywhere. I did 11 years in the Air Force. I did almost 10 years at Cisco Systems. So if I can stick around WWT for another year, this will be the longest place I've ever worked. And I'll tell you, in at least the last 20 years, the work that I'm doing for this company is the most satisfying um, that I can remember. I'm training a group of people to do what I've been doing for the last 20, 30 years, young engineers and salespeople. I own the whole shebang now and just picked up some responsibility for our program in the UK, apprentice associate engineering program, sales program over there. So it is rewarding to take, like Rush Limbaugh used to describe, young skulls full of mush and teach them something and then watch the fruits of that effort. It's absolutely fascinating. I have always admired teachers. I've always loved to teach. As far back as my Air Force days, I was an instructor in the job that I had, and I always enjoyed teaching. I knew that you could never make a good living at it, or I shouldn't say that. You'll never achieve this financial heights like you can in other roles. But I tell you what, I love school teachers and the way that they think. Um, and I love them so much. I hired two of them. I have two school teachers that work for me. They didn't work in the business world. They worked in the classroom, and that's what I needed to help me build this program that I'm doing. So anyway, I have a whole new appreciation for school teachers and fascinating. I don't know what got me off on that, but let me run to the next segment of Speaking of Zane, This Week in Military History. I did pull a few items. I love history. I love military history. I love reading about history. You learn from history, and it's just fascinating to me. But I pulled a couple of items that are all June 4th items in military history chronologically. Did you know that on this day in 1789, the U.S. Constitution went into effect? How about that? Hey, I've got got a little pocket Constitution here that I keep on my desk, and I'll read excerpts from this every now and then. But that's the Constitution goes into effect in 1789. Fast forward considerably, June 4th, 1940. You guys know I'm a World War II history buff, but did you know that on June 4th of 1940, that's when German forces entered Paris? And they stayed there until we kicked their ass out and in 44. And then did you know this? I didn't know this, or I didn't realize this, but on June 4th of 1942, so now we're talking about less than a year after Pearl Harbor, the USS Yorktown was sunk near Midway Island. I guess that would have been the first Yorktown. There is a Yorktown that's been retired in Charleston Harbor. Somebody fact check me on that if I get anything wrong. Like anything I say, fact check me there. But all right, don't fact check any of my opinions. Opinions are opinions, but anything I state as fact, you're free to fact check me on any of those, like Daryl did with Edwardsville. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. If you have, as usual, if you have any This Week in Military History items you want to throw in the chat, do that. Steve likes to do that. Steve's a student of history. All right. Moving on to a couple of challenges that we have on Speaking of Zane. We've been doing this for several years now. We have a veteran cemetery challenge. So we're in the business of visiting veteran cemeteries and telling each other about them and our visits and what they mean to us and chronicling them and learning from them and telling other people about them and teaching people. When I show people the map of the places we visited, they can't even believe it. But we did have some visits this week. So Daryl visited Jefferson Barracks. Daryl, did you get one or two visits? I don't remember. I know you had the visit on Memorial Day, which counted last week, and then you had another visit this week. Something troubling. I welcome everybody's opinion in the chat, but Daryl has, ever since his wife Wanda was placed to rest there at Jefferson Barracks, there's been this situation that occurs. So, do you guys know the whole thing about placing a coin on a headstone? There's this legacy of placing a coin, a penny when you visited. A nickel means you went to basic training together. A dime you served together. A quarter you were with that person when they passed. There's sort of an escalation there. Well, Daryl always puts a quarter on Wanda's headstone, and every time he goes back, the quarter is missing. And it's not Wanda taking it. Somebody's going through and taking a quarter off of his headstone. Every single quarter that Daryl has put out there, somebody has taken. It's an incredible thing, and it's not like her grave is on a path that people, you have to purposely be going to see her. I know because I've been there several times. So it's not like it's on a walking path or anything. And I don't know, I love Daryl's attitude about it. I can tell the frustration he's had over the years, but his attitude is sort of, I know he's upset about it. And he's like, you know, if there's a person that's so desperate they need 25 cents, if they would tell me, I would give them the 25 cents. That's Daryl's attitude. Just leave my wife quarter alone. I don't know. It's a weird, very weird thing. And they don't take the nickels or dimes or pennies or anything. They just take the quarter. It's crazy. I don't know, Daryl, what to think about it, but it's crazy. So Daryl made a visit. My dad has made some visits to Evergreen Cemetery there in Fitzgerald, where my mother rests. We placed her to rest about 3 weeks ago, I guess now, right, Dad? And of course, Dad's doing a great job of spending time with her and visiting. We know she's not there, but the last part of her that we saw is there. It's symbolic. At least to me, I feel like I need to visit that. Daryl does the same thing. Amy does with Roy. We know that. But Dad had made a visit out there. And so Daryl, Dad, and I think that may be the only visits we had this week. I mentioned last week I had 3 young ladies in my class, 3 young in their 20s, professionals, learning to be engineers. They were all together in Washington, D.C. last week, and they went to the changing of the guard. They went to Arlington National Cemetery, young, 22, 23. I think the oldest among them is 29, and they went to Arlington. And I was so proud and pleased to hear that. But so I think we just had I'm going to say the 2 visits this week, which would put us at 838 visits since we started doing this. 175 different locations. Think about that. 175 different locations. This relatively small group of people have visited over the last few years. Let me catch up on the chat here. Amy says, I think I read the caretakers of the cemeteries take the coins and put them in some kind of fund. Yeah, I think you may be right, Amy. And they do that on certain days, like when they pick up the flowers and stuff. There's certain days where they pick up the old flowers, but this isn't Daryl's situation. Isn't on a regular cadence. It's not a predictable, regular thing, and it's only the quarter that's missing. The other coins are missing. It's a conundrum for sure. But anywho, all right. So I think we had 8. We're up to 838 visits to 175 different locations, and I've often described visiting Georgia National Cemetery. It's my favorite place, and it's my least favorite place. I hate that I have to go there, but when I go there, I don't know. There's this something about the being there that is satisfying, calming. Anyway, thank you guys for playing along with us there. We did have some Thank a Vet challenge entries this week, the ones that I know of anyway. Sometimes folks will throw some last minute ones in the chat, and feel free to do that. But let me tell you what I think I know. Daryl had a really good conversation with a Marine called Salvatore, same age as Daryl. They both went in the military the same year. And so, Daryl, thanks for chronicling that. Jimbo had 2 Air Force thank yous on his trip to the base this week. My Aunt Paula had 2 Pasco County deputies. I tell you what, Aunt Paula is bound and determined to thank every single Pasco County Sheriff's deputy, I think, on the force. So good on you, Aunt Paula. And let's see, my dad had my dad went to the commissary down at Moody Air Force Base this week. He thanked 2 Air Force folks at Moody, a Marine, and an Army vet. How about that? And then Carl, I got your 2 Vietnam vets. Carl, where'd you say you guys were out doing some? They were out doing some commerce in a local establishment or something, and Carl saw 2 Vietnam vets with their hats on and thanked them. And then Carl was in turn thanked by the proprietor of some location. There you go, at an art fair, and he was thanked and given a very nice "We Thank You" keychain. I think it was. Carl, thanks for sharing that. That's kind of cool. All right, so our thank yous are up to 2,142. So that means if we hadn't done Speaking of Zane, we wouldn't be doing this in an organized fashion. And that means that 2,142 people would not have heard from us, hey, thank you, or hey, I served too, or hey, where did you serve, or hey, did you go to Why Not Minot, or hey, did you, whatever the case may be. So thank you guys for playing along with that. I stumbled across the picture of the very first one of these that we did. I've often told the story. Lori and I were coming back from College Station, Texas, and we were at the Houston airport, I think it was. And I thanked a Vietnam vet and that Vietnam Army vet, and that cascaded the whole thing. That next week on Speaking of Zane, we began the challenge, and now we're 2,142 strong here. Okay. Let's see, what does that take us to? Organizations, we talk about the organizations that we're all involved with, active with, contribute to, know about. No really new updates. Next month, we do have the Running to Honor 5K coming up. Looking forward to that. My Warriors Place, I mentioned last week, we've got a new effort. There's a sort of a mashup between My Warriors Place and the Dagan Page Foundation, where we're going to be raising some funds for the families of the 13 that were killed in that disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, so that they can come to My Warriors Place at the end of August. Stay tuned for more about that and how you might be able to help. And let's see. That's about it there. I did see, I don't know if anybody else has any more information about this, but I just saw this afternoon. There was a small plane, privately owned plane that entered restricted airspace in Washington, D.C. today. And some F-16s were scrambled. In fact, they had to make it to the scene so quickly that they exceeded the speed of sound, and there were some sonic booms reported. And they've since acknowledged that that was in relation to this breach of airspace. And unfortunately, it turns out that this private aircraft was on its way back from Florida to somewhere in Virginia. And turns out the pilot was incapacitated or unresponsive or something. And anyway, the plane, as it's reported, with a family on board and a nanny, crashed, and they were all killed. I don't know anything more about that, but I just saw that as I was preparing for Speaking of Zane. Sad. Okay, well, I think that is it. There's 13 laps to go in the race. I might finish up with Speaking of Zane here and watch the rest of the race. But good to have everybody in here. Good sized crowd tonight. Thank you all for joining regularly every Sunday night, sometimes on Monday night, and listen to this guy jabber. I sure appreciate your support. I tell you what, I feel stronger having you guys there, knowing that you're all um, interested in Zane carrying on his legacy and the other legacies of all the others, Roy and Deborah, and Wanda, and all of those that we have in common, and making sure that their names aren't forgotten. And we'll do our part. That's all we can do. And I sure appreciate you guys being along for the ride. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing everybody again next Sunday night. Let me think what we got going on this week. Just another busy week at work. Can't think of what's coming up toward the end of the week. But anyway, we'll talk again next Sunday night for Speaking of Zane for sure. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody. Maybe I'll lose another pound between now and next week. We'll see. I got to beat these young whippersnappers. They think they can beat this old man at the weight loss challenge, but I don't know. I don't know. They can't beat me at most things, and we'll see how it goes. But we'll look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Have a great week. Take care, buddy.